Okay, certainly game theories have many merits in order to explain the behavior of the national states in a state of anarchy in a competitive situation, but also at the same time, game theories have some weaknesses of defaults. Let me introduce some critics of game theories. The fundamental assumption of the game theory is rationality. Rationality. And individuals or groups or the free markets are functioning in the extreme sense of rationality. So let me criticize this basic assumption, rationality. First, human, do not always make rational choice, not always make rational choice. Let me give you some examples of economic men and political men. Before I say this, economic man is an academic jargon. If you take any economics, intro 1, you will learn what the economic man is all about. But in political science, there's no such a thing like political man. I made it up. Economic man is a economic and academic jargon, a concept. Political man is not. And what is economic man? What is economic man? If you look at dictionary or books of economics, intro economics, you will see the definition of economic man. First, maximization of the utility and minimization of the cost. Now, when you want to buy something, for example, cell phone, because everybody owns a cell phone. And now, you search the quality and price of many products. There are so many cell phones. And then you compare the merchandises and also the price. And you like to buy a cheap one with the same quality. So in other words, you like to minimize the cost and maximize the utility. That's the economic man is all about. What about political man? I said there's no such a thing in the intro political science book. But even in economic man has a highly rational decision making. But when you purchase, and when we compare the purchasing desire versus fashion, and utility value versus price. For example, like diamonds. What is the utility value of diamonds? Not much, isn't it? Not much. But what about the price? It costs fortune. It's extremely expensive. But people love to purchase and own diamonds or gold or silver. So the fundamental difference between the utility value versus price. In case of political man, if we look at the voting behavior of the people, we never find any rational or decision making or rationality. In the voting behavior, when you vote for someone, you vote for someone because he or she is from the graduated same college, or friend, or same hometown, went to same high school. Or if you believe in the political rhetorics by the candidates, they all lie. They all lies. So even in economic men or political men, people do not make always rational choices. In other words, People are irrational. An extreme case of the irrationality of the people is the market failure. In the free market system, market must not fail. Because market failure sometimes taking place in the free market system. In the free market system, always supply and demand curves meet and the price sets from there. That's the perfect of free market system. But market failure is taking place, and market failure means the inefficient distribution of goods and services in the free market. In the typical free market, prices of the goods and services are determined by the forces of supply and demand. And any change in one of these forces results in a price change. If the demand goes up here, then price will go up here. Right? And any change, either supply or demand, will be resulted in a price change and a corresponding change in the other force. If this curve goes like this, price goes up, and then this curve will move. Excuse me, it'll move over here, and price will be same. Price will be same. Or like this, over here too. So the changes lead to a price equilibrium. But in case of this market failure, I'm going to give you a best example, the so-called lemon car. Lemon car. What is the lemon car? How does the lemon taste like? You feel sour. You feel like lemon. Now you feel your saliva on your mouth or tongue, right? So market failure is easily found in the used car markets. The used car markets. In used car markets, supply and demand curves often do not meet. Now, let me give an example. I have a car which is 3 years old. And normally, 3-year-old car, this model, is sold about $20,000. So, but because of my promotion of the company, I have my salary increase, so I bought a bigger car, better car. So I would like to sell my old car. So I went to the used car market, and I put a sign of $20,000 on the windshield of my car, and I waited. Now, on the different side, a buyer came to the used car market, and he saw my car, the buyer. And buyer asked some questions to the seller. Why would you sell your car? And the seller explained his promotion, and he bought a new, better car. But the seller said, I kept my car so wonderful. I changed the oil periodically, and I washed my car after rain or snow, so it is a perfect condition. But for the seller, for the buyer, he could not trust the seller's points. If their car is so that much good, he doesn't have any need to sell the car. He should have kept it. He should keep it. So he does not trust, the seller does not trust, the buyer does not trust the seller. As I illustrated in the lemon car market, there's a conflict of interest between the seller and the buyer. So in the used car markets, supply and demand curves often do not meet. In that case, an outside authority steps in to set the price. So dealer approached to those guys and set the price. Okay, this car is sold for $20,000. So even in the highly competitive free market, rationality does not work all the time. Market failure. That's the lemon car market is a best example of the market failure. Now, fourth critique of game theories, particularly in the field of rationality, is that individual rationality often develops to group irrationality. Look at this. Individual rationality goes to group irrationality. A group of smart or most intelligent people often make irrational decisions. I think you have witnessed, or you are witnessing many cases in your own countries, and in South Korea too. Of course, in North Korea, and China, and the US, and many countries. Why? Even though it's a bunch of the very intellectual, intelligent guys make all together, they make collective irrational decisions, particularly in a charismatic political culture. The best example of group irrationality is the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962 in America. At that time, the president was President Kennedy. He was a charismatic leader, young, good-looking in America. So when the Soviet Union tried to deploy the intermediate range nuclear missiles in Cuba, he pushed the Khrushchev to get away from Cuba, and finally he got a total victory of the Cuban Missile Crisis. But later, after that, Kennedy made a secret plan to invade Cuba, but turned out to be a failure. But among the Kennedy cabinets, those guys were the most intelligent people in the world in American history, but they made a wrong decisions. The invasion of Cuba, or Bay of Tonkin crisis in the Johnson administration. All these are the best examples of group irrationality in the game theory. The last critique of game theory is the unequal distribution of information, or even absence of information, because information is not equally distributed according to the power and authority of the situation. In other words, when the information is distributed, power and authority is deeply involved. And the information gap is widespread. Information gap all over the world, particularly between the rich and poor. Obviously, the rich people are dominating or monopolizing sometimes the information, and sometimes young and old. This information gap is getting increased. Particularly the rich people have connections with the powerful people or power elites, and they get a very important information out of the government. For example, development of real estate or certain area. The rich people and powerful people get that information earlier than other people and purchase a piece of land. And when the project is played on, they make enormous amount of money. So, in short, not all players could get enough information because of this information gap.